Hey everybody, and welcome back to this episode of Transit Tangents. My name's Chris.
And I'm Lewis.
And this is actually a little different. It is a part 2 of our Project Connect Draft EIS review. In part 1, if you haven't watched that, we went through each of the stations, station by station, talked about sort of the alignment of the system and what you're going to expect once the system is built out. Now we're going to get into the rest of the document in part 2.
Let's pick right up where we left off.
From 29th Street, if you are familiar with Austin, the road, Guadalupe does make a little bit of a sharp turn as it starts heading north and kind of realigns with the Austin grid. UT kind of offsets the whole grid. It's very annoying for those of us who are a little OCD about cities. But where it is turning into this north section of Guadalupe, this is my second gripe. It is taking out my favorite pho place, Sip Pho.
Yeah, I was a little sad,
right through the dining room.
Sad to see that too. I was just I went there on Sunday or Saturday or Sunday.
It's a delicious place. So get your pho before it's gone. But this continues up the road to 38th Street. 38th Street is the northern terminus of the line for now, before it gets extended up to eventually the North Lamar Transit Center. But this will be the northern terminus of the Phase 1 line. This is also going to be the Northern Park and Ride. This Park and Ride is going to be at the corner of 38th and Guadalupe. And right now what's sitting there is like a Jiffy Lube and a couple of, like a car wash, a couple of small businesses, maybe an urgent care there as well.
Yeah, there's
all
a
of that's going to
Starbucks.
be...
Yeah, some of it will stay, some of it will
Starbucks is
turn
on the
into
other
it.
side. It's
yeah,
fine.
Okay,
yeah. It's just, it's sort of this other development right on the corner of Hyde Park. That is going to be a parking garage and a park and ride area.
The area right now too, there are some apartments close by. There's also a medical center right there. So I'd imagine that we'll see some decent ridership. I have a gripe with building a park and ride here only because in the future it's going to extend up a couple more stops. There's already a park and ride with a garage at the Triangle, which is where the 45th stop will be, which would be the first one being built on the next extension. You've got parking at Crestview already. You've got parking at the North Lamar Transit Center. It feels wasteful, but whatever. I mean, maybe in the future they'll be able to put something else for the parking garages. It just seems like
they should design it in a way that the parking garage can be integrated into a TOD at some point.
I don't know.
We'll see. But that brings us to the end of the blue line going north. The orange
blue
line,
/ orange at the top, I guess.
I was going to say the orange line is going to share this path as well. But eventually we'll see this line continue, like I said, up to the North Lamar Transit Center. If we are going back the opposite direction, we'll run right back through downtown, across the river, starting at the waterfront station. Again, this is where the Austin American Statesman car storage facility currently is. This is where the line is going to branch off, and it's going to be only the orange line. The orange line is going to go south through town to Oltorf.
Yes, you'll have a stop at South Congress, which is kind of the stop is kind of at the newer part of the South Congress shops and whatnot. Chris and I were just kind of saying we're surprised it's not a little bit further south, like closer to where Allen's Boots is and stuff. Feels like it would make a little bit more sense there. But this is a spot where everyone who comes to visit Austin is going to go to South Congress. It's a major tourist spot. A lot of good restaurants and stuff too. So locals will go there. There's some music venues, all that sort of stuff. To me, the more exciting stop is at Oltorf, which will currently be the southern terminus. There are plans to extend this significantly further down the line, but we're going to talk about Oltorf today being the end of it.
We have our HEB-oriented development there.
Yes, yeah. So the original HEB store was the original one, which if you're not from Texas is a grocery store, was demolished, and they built a brand new one on the corner. And there is significant redevelopment about to take place on one of the opposite corners, which is currently an abandoned strip mall. So we'll see a lot of mixed-use development, residential offices, I believe a hotel even, kind of all in the area. And
this will also be a park and ride part of the system, which again, kind of an unnecessary park and ride.
Yeah, because again, this will extend further. I mean, if you're in a car and you're already at Oltorf, there's no freaking way you're getting out to ride to downtown. Maybe I'm wrong, but I also think having the grocery store right at the stop is going to make this a popular spot. I can imagine folks who live downtown who want a real grocery store and are living car free, which would be an amazing future in Austin to have it be easy to live car free. I mean, people do it. It is difficult for sure. And I can imagine having a quick light rail line from downtown to the Oltorf station being a really popular spot with the grocery store right at the station.
So that is a summary of all of the stations and where the light rail is going to go all through town. So with all that being said, how often are you going to see a train at these stations? And right now, it looks like the main trunk, the trains are estimated to be every 5 minutes, which is really impressive and means we are definitely getting signal priority because there's no way that's happening without it.
Totally. Yeah, and so 5 minutes at peak and even off peak every 7.5 minutes.
Which I would take that as well.
Totally. So that means on the two kind of where it splits off down Riverside and South Congress, we're looking at every 10 minutes and every 15 minutes off peak, which is a major improvement from any bus in the city for the most part. Right now, the most frequent buses in Austin are every 10 minutes, and I will tell you that they're not every 10 minutes normally. No. So yeah, love to see the frequencies here.
This is also a big improvement on the just current travel times on the existing system. So right now, if you're going to go from 38th Street to Oltorf, which would be the extent of the full Orange Line, if you were to do this on a bus, the estimated travel time is about 33 minutes.
Yep.
And that's kind of generous, especially depending on what time of day it is, because traffic through there gets pretty heavy. If you were going to take 38th Street to Yellow Jacket, which is the end of the blue line, that's going to be about 45 minutes. Again, highly dependent on traffic.
Yeah, that one requires a transfer.
Yeah, and it would require a transfer. And that's only going to get slower over time as more people move to Austin and there's more development. Timing with the light rail, 38th to Oltorf Street, 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's really, really good. And then light rail 38th to Yellow Jacket, 26 minutes.
Which again, that one's like massive improvement. That means like, again, with the extension to the airport, like downtown to the airport will be quick. And like right now, the 20 from the airport to downtown and vice versa, which I actually do it quite a bit, is painfully slow down Riverside because it stops all the time. Like there's just so many people getting on and off.
I'd say the times are comparable to our dream gondola system.
Yeah, they are, probably. That's right. If you go back to our gondola episode a little while ago. A couple other interesting things to point out here. And also this is a bit of a shout out to the Austin Urbanists Discord. I don't know that I'm allowed to like share a link to it. So, but if you're interested, maybe I don't want to upset anyone who runs it. But if you're interested, send a message or something, and we can get you an invite because it's a big group. But shout out to Parker and several other people in there. It's always really informative. There's a ton of like really good transit wonks in there. Parker was looking into the kind of lengths of the stations and caught something that I hadn't seen before. So presently, the stations are not all being built to their full length. So a full-length station would be about 350 feet. Currently, a handful of them are only going to be about 250 feet long to start. A lot of that is to just like disrupt less traffic in some of these areas where they're interfering with stoplights and whatnot.
And it looks like there's a lot of sections where if you have 3 trains, are going to be leaning into traffic a little ways, right?
They would yes, they would. So that would be with the 350 foot stop. So with some assumptions of what vehicles are being used, you'd only be able to do 2-car long trains with the shorter stations. With that, the potential capacity is to move 5,640 people per hour along the trunk line in each direction. That would go up, obviously, if the stations were extended, allowing for the 3rd car to be added on. But again, shout out to Parker in the Discord. I met Parker a couple times doing some volunteer work for Adam over the summer. So but overall, the expected ridership of the system by 2040 is about 29,000 people per day.
Yeah, so a sizable amount.
Totally. And like just to give some comparison, the 801, which is the highest ridership line in the city right now, sees about 7,300 riders per day. And then the 20 is another high ridership route, but it's the area that goes along Riverside, sees about 5,000 per day, with the full system of Cap Metro being about 80,000 per day presently. So this will capture a big number of people and has the potential, with all the developments that we've kind of talked about, to increase significantly in time.
The city's densifying over time. We had the home initiative, so smaller lots, more development in the neighborhoods. All that's going to contribute to higher ridership as well.
As well as the extended sections of the line that hopefully will come soon.
Yeah, extended sections to the airport, to the North Lamar Transit Center, and to the South Lamar Transit Center.
Not South Lamar, South Congress.
to the South,
and to the South Congress Transit Center. And eventually even to Stastny, I believe, is the furthest build out. But that one, I'm not gonna hold my breath for that coming anytime soon. We'll jump right back into the episode in just a second. But first, if you haven't liked this video or left a comment, please do so. It helps us out quite a bit. And we also have some exciting news.
Yeah, if you want to support the show, we have swag, we have merchandise. Go check out our store where you can get hats, t-shirts, hoodies, a bunch of other things coming, new designs for that, all going to be coming up in the next few weeks.
Lastly, if you want to support the show directly and get access to early episodes, you can do so on Patreon. But without further ado, let's jump right back into the episode.
So we also looked at the environmental impact portion of the environmental impact study. And this really focuses on changes to the natural environment, but also focuses on the human and urban environment as well. And that includes displacement. Most of this transit line is going to run through existing right-of-way, pretty much all on grade at street. So the natural environmental impact, pretty minimal.
Right.
And they call that out in the document that, you know, a lot of what we're seeing as far as, you know, changes to drainage and all this kind of stuff, all of that infrastructure already exists and that impact's already happened with the roadways. Where you're going to see disruption, it's all going to be temporary with like temporary construction sites.
Right. And when we look at some of the properties that would need to be displaced as part of this, we're going to see 27 full acquisitions. So that is eminent domain being used to take 27 properties.
Rest in peace, SIPFA.
Yes, rest in peace, SIPFA. And some of the spots in that area I'm less upset about. There's like a gas station that's being taken. That's like not good land use to have there anyway. All that sort of stuff. And then 277 partial acquisitions. So that's we need a little bit more room to widen the light rail in the road or that sort of thing.
Yeah, taking a little sliver of yards or like where sidewalk exists now, just kind of extending those out a little bit.
Yep. And among these kind of acquisitions and partial acquisitions, it's going to displace about 59 businesses and 8 residential condo units. That one's a potentially on the condo units, but as far as the businesses go, obviously, like I'm not a huge fan of eminent domain where it can be avoided. But in the case of this is like clearly for a public good.
Yeah.
Hate it on I-35 because I just like, they could have done stuff in the footprint better. There's a lot of other options there. As far as building a light rail system in the city, it's obviously going to be a net good in time. It's going to get a lot of use and all this sort of stuff. We're just, you know, hopefully these businesses, and I'm sure they will be well taken care of and helped to relocate when possible.
Well, and it's also called out in the environmental impact study that we are spurring new growth in a lot of these areas too. So when you make these statistics on the displacement, it's really hard to then say how many new businesses are going to come in these places or how many new opportunities the businesses that were there, how many new spaces they're going to have once the construction's done. And what is great about this whole process of building out the system is that there are programs that help businesses kind of bridge that gap between the construction phase and getting to a more permanent space or finding a new space. In the environmental impact study, they even call out that LoopNet shows we have like 80 plus commercial parcels available for purchase or rent. And so there are options for these businesses. They don't necessarily have to close down.
Right.
There are programs out there to assist. One thing I'm really happy to see here, there's not a lot of residential displacement.
Right.
We mentioned there's 8 residential condos that you're going to, maybe limit their access to parking. There's a couple of single family homes that are going to have to go around Riverside. But for the most part, the displacement is through commercial and industrial sites and very, very few residential displacements.
Right. The other kind of major area would be where the operations and maintenance facility is going to go. Again, it is in an area that will be well suited to find additional space given the programs that you're talking about. It is in an area that is already zoned as light industrial. And frankly, it seems like an appropriate use for the space. The city in the document also says they're going to make sure that they're using tracks that keep things as quiet as possible. There are some homes not super far away, but those homes are already backed up to a light industrial area as it is, so it's not going to be a significant land use change for the neighborhood. Unrelated specifically to the EIS, but related very much so to Project Connect, we talked about this in the previous episode a little bit too, kind of a couple main threats to the project in general being in Texas were lawsuits, some of which have had some successful results and or steps in the right direction. The other is the state legislature.
Yes. And the state legislature has a history of creating preemption laws in the state, especially targeting Austin, where anything that we try to do as a city, the state then comes in and says, you can't do that.
Right.
And Project Connect is...
So much for small government, huh?
Yeah. And Project Connect is no different. It's also not a surprise to anybody that the Texas legislature, very conservative.
Yes.
And primarily elects leaders from parts of the state that are a little more rural, small town, that aren't huge supporters of transit.
Right. And what we just saw happen in the state legislature was pretty interesting. So there were kind of two characters who were up to be elected for Speaker of the House. The House and the Senate are both overwhelming Republican majorities in Texas. And you had two people. You had David Cook, who was more popular among kind of MAGA-style Republicans, and then you had Dustin Burrows, who is more of like an establishment Republican character. And
still very right-wing.
Yes, but more like traditional, I guess,
Sure.
conservative. There's a lot that the Democrats who have worked to elect him disagree on, but what happened was Democrats worked with Burrows supporters essentially in the House to elect Burrows,
Yes.
who actually was elected Speaker of the House with more Democrat votes than Republican votes.
Yes.
The governor and other figures are very not happy that this happened.
Yes.
But essentially to get this guy elected to Speaker of the House, a lot of Democrats in the state, including members of the Austin delegation, voted him in. And I am really hoping that behind closed doors, what happened was like, hey, we will get you this seat, but please don't mess with our local
Yes.
politics. We know you're going to do stuff we disagree with. That wasn't going to happen under anybody, but please don't mess with our local government. And when we look at, there's some articles that talked about this, but local, go ahead. Sorry, you're going to.
No, I was just saying, he's still not, people in Austin still aren't a huge fan, right? I mean, he helped pass the limitation on how much cities can tax, so it really makes it harder to add new programs in a city because it limits that. But what I was going to say is one of the most vocal opponents of Project Connect, which is Ellen Troxclair, who's a representative who doesn't live in Austin, mind you, but is a huge voice against Project Connect and against the city of Austin, anything they do. She was very vocal against Burrows and in support of Cook.
Right.
Now she has sort of severed that tie to the Speaker of the House. So any bills that she introduces that could potentially take away funding for Project Connect or cancel the project, maybe, potentially, they won't get the oxygen that they definitely don't deserve.
Right. There was a great article. I subscribe to, it's the Austin Politics newsletter. I think Jack Craven or Crever is he's like an independent local journalist. Worth checking out, honestly. Like, if you care about local journalism, finding folks like him is important, I think. But the headline of his article about this was something along the lines of like, the right wing Speaker of the House was chosen. The right wing. I thought I was like, oh, that's a pretty good way to put it.
Good,
but, so, cautious optimism there that, one of the potential fires to this project has been maybe put out or at least gotten under control for a little while.
Maybe there's at least a little bit of political will to negotiate leaving it alone. So we'll see.
Yeah.
Then this also goes towards the Dallas things as well. We look at the Plano trying to leave DART. Maybe this also helps them. So.
Absolutely. Well, with all that being said, let us know what you think about this. Obviously, this is a project near and dear to our hearts because we live here in Austin. But it's exciting to see nonetheless. If you want to further support us continuing to do the show, again, we go all over the place on the ground in some of these places. We're going to be in Dallas, actually, at the end of this month. If you want to help support us directly, Patreon is the best place to do so. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts, watch here on YouTube. If you haven't liked this video already, please consider doing so. Leave a comment.
If you want to make a one-time donation, we also have access to Buy Me a Coffee. So please feel free to go buy me a coffee. And as we have mentioned in a couple episodes and on our new mid-roll, we have a store. So if you want your Transit Tangent swag, which includes shirts, hoodies, socks, stickers, all of those things, and more things to come, check out the link to our store as well.
And with all that being said, thank you all so much for watching and enjoy the rest of your Transit Tangents Tuesday.
Yeah, I'm saving that dough. Public transit's where it's at. Watch me go.